Banks advertise free checking. What they don't advertise is what they charge when you slip. November 1933. The Glass-Steagall Act passed through Congress. It separated commercial banking from investment banking, and it did something else. It banned banks from paying interest on checking accounts. The logic was simple. If banks couldn't pay you to keep money there, they had to make money another way. They charged fees. This was the birth of the modern checking account fee structure. What regulators didn't anticipate was how creative banks would become. Fast forward to 1980. Deregulation began. Banks could now pay interest on checking accounts again. You'd think fees would disappear. They didn't. Instead, they multiplied. Banks discovered something. They could advertise no monthly fee while charging fees for everything else. The language mattered. No fee didn't mean free. It meant the basic account had no maintenance charge. Everything else was negotiable. By the early 2000s, the fee ecosystem had calcified. A checking account advertised as no fee typically charged, overdraft fees when you spent more than you had, insufficient funds fees when a transaction couldn't clear, ATM fees if you use another bank's machine, wire transfer fees, check printing fees, paper statement fees. Each one seemed small, $5, $10, $35 for overdraft. Customers didn't know yet how these would compound. September 2008, the financial crisis hit. Banks suddenly faced a problem. People were moving money, withdrawals spiked. To compensate, banks increased overdraft fees. A single overdraft could now cost $35. Some banks allowed multiple overdrafts per day, meaning one person could rack up $200 in fees from a single bad day of spending. The math was simple for the bank. One customer's mistake could generate more revenue than 1,000 customers paying interest. What customers didn't realize was the mechanism underneath. When you overdraft, the bank doesn't process transactions in the order you made them. It processes them in the order that maximizes fees. Your small purchases first, your large one last. That way each one triggers a separate overdraft fee. A regulatory complaint in 2010 documented this. The practice was legal. The banks had written the rules. The no-fee account survived because it had become marketing language, not a literal description. A bank could genuinely offer an account with no monthly maintenance fee while still extracting thousands annually from a vulnerable customer base. The poor paid more. Someone living paycheck to paycheck, more likely to overdraft, paid substantially more than someone with a cushion. The fee structure was regressive by design. By 2020, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau began tracking this. The average household paid over $300 annually in bank fees. Most of it came from overdrafts. The banks made more money from overdraft fees than from interest on savings accounts. The math had inverted. Checking accounts were no longer repositories. They were fee traps, and no fee was the bait. The second layer of the trap was opacity. Banks didn't advertise overdraft fees prominently. They appeared on statements in small print. Customers discovered them after they occurred. By then, the money was gone. The fee had already been charged. Disputing it required time, phone calls, and persistence most people didn't have. The system wasn't designed to be unfair. It was designed to be invisible. Around 2010, a third mechanism emerged: the balance requirement. Some no-fee accounts required you to maintain a minimum balance, often $500 or $1,000. If your balance dropped below it, the monthly fee appeared. This created a catch-22. People who needed checking accounts the most couldn't afford to keep the required minimum. They paid the fee, or they left banking altogether, moving to check cashing services that charged even more. The core business model of the no-fee account was this: advertise simplicity, extract complexity. Charge fees that appeared to be exceptions but were actually the rule for a significant portion of the customer base. A person who never overdrafts, never falls below the minimum, and uses only in-network ATMs might genuinely pay nothing. But that person was always the minority. The fee structure was built on the assumption that many customers would fail these conditions. ATM networks created another layer. When you use an out-of-network ATM, you paid a fee to the other bank. Then your bank charged you a fee for using an out-of-network ATM, 2 fees for single transaction. The two banks were both profiting from your need for cash. This happened because banks fragmented into regional networks. No single network covered everywhere. Customers couldn't avoid out-of-network fees entirely. The fees were inevitable. Wire transfer fees operated on similar logic. Sending money domestically cost $15 to $25. International transfers cost $50 or more. These fees weren't tied to the bank's costs. Processing a wire took seconds. The fee was pure margin. Customers paid because they had no alternative. You couldn't send money by checking account. The wire transfer fee was a tax on needing to move money quickly. Paper statements created another revenue stream. If you wanted a physical statement mailed to you, some banks charged $1 or $2 per month. The incentive was clear: go digital, avoid the fee. But this created a divide. Older customers, less comfortable online, paid more. Customers without reliable internet paid more. The fee structure penalized people who couldn't or wouldn't adapt to digital banking. The no-fee account survived because regulators focused on headline rates, not the full fee ecosystem. A bank could advertise a $0 monthly fee while generating hundreds in annual revenue from that same customer through overdrafts, ATM fees, and wire transfers. The language was technically accurate. The reality was obscured. This gap between what was advertised and what was charged was structural. It was how the business model functioned. What made this sustainable was habit. Most customers didn't shop around. They opened an account in their 20s and kept it for decades. The bank knew this. They also knew that switching banks required effort. You need to update direct deposits, change automatic payments, transfer savings. The friction was intentional. It kept customers locked in, paying fees they might not have tolerated if switching were easier. By the 2020s, fintech companies began offering genuinely free checking accounts. No overdraft fees, no minimum balance, no ATM fees. These accounts operated on different logic. They made money from interchange fees on debit card transactions, or they operated at a loss as a customer acquisition tool. The existence of these accounts proves something important. The fees in traditional no-fee accounts weren't inevitable, they were chosen. The no-fee checking account remains common because the language persists. A bank still advertises a no monthly fee. Customers still believe they have a free account, but the fees are still there, hidden in overdraft clauses, in balance requirements, in ATM networks, in wire transfer charges. The architecture hasn't changed. Only the visibility has. Understanding how it works is the first step toward seeing it clearly. The history of the no-fee account is the history of how language can obscure economics. A fee-free account that extracts fees, a simple product with hidden complexity, a system that works perfectly for the bank and invisibly against the customer. It's not fraud, it's not illegal, it's how the industry was built, and it's still how most checking accounts work today. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe for the next deep dive into how consumer systems really work. There's a new mechanism every week. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.